Order, and we will be standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I may have an approval of minutes. A motion?
So moved.
Second, thank you, Diane. Who was the second? That was Becky. You need a, Tina's not in the room, so you'll have to say your name so she knows who did the first and second. Any agenda changes?
Joanna, are all board members present?
Yes.
Thank you.
So at this time, we will have a presentation for STEAM department.
Welcoming Paul White. Thank you for being here this evening, representing our entire STEAM department.
What a job. Anyways, we were asked to come and share some data with you. So I took the very first slot.
Brave.
Yeah, so our idea of data in STEAM is that probably a little bit different. So if what I give you is not what you want, you'll have to figure that out. We've been in school for 17 days, so I have 17 days of data. How's that? And that's the last time I'm going to say that word.
Awesome. Oh, I can see it.
Oh, you can.
There we
it is.
go.
All right. Yes, so our vision still is creation, learning, and joy. We've started to get our students saying the same thing and understanding what we mean by it. Most of what I have is pictures of students, most of them smiling, so that's the joy part. And you will see creation. And if you were in our, and I'm really speaking mostly from high school, if you were in our space, you could ask students what they were doing, and they could tell you so much. It's honestly, after 20 years of teaching, shocking. And then our mission is we build a culture of learning through community, wonder, creation, and play. And we can always expound on that. All right, so I am not going to do the middle school and elementary school justice because I'm not in their space with them. But in the elementary school, in kindergarten, first grade, students asked, like watercolors can be mixed together, can they also be pulled apart? So Justin DiMatteo set them up. Awesome. So they got some coffee filters out, they put color on it, and they watched them separated. The kids then went and asked the question, this was all student generated. They asked the question, what happens if we do like brown and black? Right, so they did brown and black and found that there were all these colors. So there was follow-up questions and discussions, and we were talking about physics in kindergarten and first grade.
Amazing.
That's pretty awesome. We really are starting to tie our whole program to the design school, the D school at Stanford. We talked about this before. So in third grade, they were working on the first little spot, which is empathize. And that's when you're designing something, talk to the person you're building something for and find out exactly what they need, which there's skills in there, like learning to interview and developing empathy. So for third graders, their plan was talk to one of your colleagues and develop a container that will hold their lunch. So first they had to find out what their favorite lunch thing was, and then they designed them in the STEAM space. I think the middle one is a sandwich, the far right one is pizza or pie. I'm sure what
A pretzel.
yeah, I left it in there because I was just like, maybe you had the answer. Otherwise, you probably take it out, but yeah. Carrot.
Maybe it's a carrot.
A carrot.
Yeah, or celery. Right? I think we have Crystal Haranen, who's our elementary school principal, who's absolutely amazing.
Librarian.
What's that?
Librarian.
You said librarian.
Oh. Don't worry, I'm not nervous.
You're doing great.
Thank you, though.
I can't remember all this stuff. So she read If I Build a School with her students, which is a story about a young man who builds the school he wants with hoverboards and all this other stuff. So she in the library is a little bit limited, so took it down to the steam room in Justin, and they had this amazing build couple days. So that's like the creation learning. Enjoy it. I know. In media, Gail has taken over the morning announcements, which Justin started with the fourth graders, so it's continuing. They're working at storytelling and taking videos and editing. Right, in fifth grade, and then they create a morning announcement.
Is there audio?
Oh,
Is chicken and cheese quesadillas or just cheese quesadilla? Hi, today's the first Tuesday in October, and that's hot to Rhode Island because it's National Rhode Island Day.
I love it.
right? And my understanding is the kids are doing all of it on their own. Like there really is no student involvement. When they were fourth graders, they would come in, Justin set them up with Counts on video, and the kids just took over to the point, and I'm starting to see this in the high school, like they would do their first like prototype, and then they would be unhappy with portions of it, and they go back and do it again. That's like,
Amazing.
yeah, I was a high school teacher for 20 years, like I can never get kids to go back. Make corrections. All right, so this I can talk about, and you should stop me if I go on too much. The humans we have in high school, well, are amazing. Yeah, so we started our spaces in a little bit of disarray, but it's been awesome. Eric Yeffru is my colleague now, and we are having an absolute blast. But we have all this machinery in our clean room, and we don't know how to use it all. So we have this like group of young women who have come in, fixed all the 3D printers, are printing stuff. Bayla's looking at a laser printer. It's like, that's our next thing to tackle. But we generally don't even go in there because they're all in there working. So without our assistance, and Ari, who's on the left, Nick, our custodian here in high school, came with this little plastic part and was like, could you like make this for me? Because I can't put this together without the part. I'm like, I can't, but I know somebody who can. So she got her micrometer out and yesterday brought a prototype in, which she was not happy with, so she's making it again. Yeah, they're absolutely amazing. That was the second day of school, they were fixing stuff. This picture is in here to remind me that Bayan, our administrative team is welcomed in their classroom to or into our space to see our English teacher do her work, and that's in here too. But I think that's a good data point. But when Bayan walked in, all smiles as always. She's like, "So what am I get? What do I see?" And I'm like, well, right now we have like Eric's kids doing some work, and I have 3 independent studies. I have 20 kids from English building birdhouses, which thankfully are in the library. And I have Dakota, who's in a wheelchair. And he's just doing robotics, and his colleagues teaching in the summer. And his hand control is like, is hard. So then by the time they were done, they came over to me at the end of the block and they're like, we found a better soldering gun for Dakota. So it feeds it directly, it's like a glue gun, which we got yesterday, so he was using it today. But to stand back and watch, like, kids taking care of kids,
Amazing.
it's pretty awesome. Well, these are the troublemakers. Right? So on the left is me in the middle of like go to class. And they walk in and say, can you cut this board? And my answer is obviously, no, I can't, but you totally can because there's tons of stuff for you to do. Eric kind of guided them through the process without telling them how to cut it. Today, the other two show up and they're like, hey, we have a project. I'm like, cool, project. We'll get it done by June. And they're like, we wanted to screen print some shirts for our meet tonight.
Oh, tonight.
So I'm like, okay, so I'm helping you. I got materials. So they learned how to use a Cricut and they made a vinyl cutout, put it on the screen.